Hey all, welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile, and today I have for you guys my Frightfur Fluffals build, and I absolutely love this deck. I like the whole scheme of it. I've been watching Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 a little bit, and I really love Sora. I think he's awesome. Great character dynamic. I love how they're doing Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5. It's actually quite enjoyable, seeing all those different styles, Dual Academy, Synchro Dimension, all that. I like it a lot. But onto the deck profile. This is a deck profile that's pretty common. I have made quite a few changes though to kind of suit my own play style, and then some stuff that I think is kind of necessary. So one thing that I just want to mention right off the bat is when we get into the monster lineup, I do run a lot more edge imps than a lot of people. First of all, we run 2 edge imp sabers and 3 edge imp chains. Now these, I see a lot of people run 3 of these, but I only see a few people run 1 of these sabers. Now I run 2 because of how easy it is to search out, thanks to Fluffal Dog, which I run at 3, which can even help you in a pinch given it's a 1700 beater, so that's pretty awesome there. But getting right into the monster lineup, of course we run the 3 dogs, we run 2 penguins, 3 bears, 1 owl, 1 cat, and 3 wings. So it's kind of the key parts of each one of these. So the key part of penguin, per se, is he lets you special summon a Fluffal monster from your hand, which is nice. That kind of helps you with the rank 4 plays because he is a level 4. So that's kind of why we have a rank 4 engine slightly in the deck. I think it's pretty good, but if you use him as a Frightfur Fusion material monster, you can draw 2 cards and then discard 1 card. So that's really awesome. I think that's kind of the best part of him. That's what you should kind of be using unless you're in a pinch and you need like Utopia the Lightning out. So Fluffal Bear is more so to set Toy Vendor. Just by discarding it from the hand, you can set Toy Vendor right from your deck, which is pretty awesome. But if you want, you contribute it and grab a polymerization in your graveyard, and you can only use Fluffal Bear effect per turn, once per turn. Alrighty, so Fluffal Owl here, he actually has the awesome ability of being able to add a polymerization from your deck to your hand when it's normal summoned or special summoned. But the most incredible part is you can pay 500 life points and fusion summon a Frightfur monster from your extra deck right away, using monsters from your hand or your side of the field as fusion material. So this acts as like a Frightfur Fusion or a polymerization itself. So that is just insanely handy. And then Fluffal Cat, just for some variety, so when you use it as fusion material, you can grab a polymerization back from your graveyard and add it to your hand. So Fluffal Wings is just so many effects in one. So basically, if you control a Toy Vendor, and Fluffal Wings is in the graveyard, you can banish Fluffal Wings from your graveyard. And if you do, target 1 Fluffal monster from your graveyard and banish that as well. And if you do, then you get to draw a card. Then you can send Toy Vendor you control to the graveyard, which is a main part of this deck. You want Toy Vendor to end up in the graveyard eventually. And then if you do that, you also get to draw another card. So that's why there's 3. It's good to have this card in the graveyard, so it's great for fusion summons, using this card as the material. Now moving on, we go to our edge imps. So like I said, I run 2 of these, and that's for the dogs effect. I think it's just useful for fusion summoning because you obviously need the Frightfur engine to happen. Also another part, if this card is in the graveyard, you can special summon it back, which helps with your fusion summons using polymerization and stuff like that, by just adding a card to the top of your deck from your hand. So Edge Imp Chain is the search power. So you don't really find many people using this card to declare an attack, which would just allow you to get a Edge Imp Chain from your deck to your hand. You more so, if this card goes from your hand or field to the graveyard, you can add 1 Frightfur card from your deck to your hand, which is the best, because you want to get your Frightfur Fusions, you want to get all your other support, and that's just the best part there. Then you also run 2 King of the Swamps, that's also just to add polymerization right to your hand, very simple, and then you can substitute for a fusion material monster, which is very, very convenient. And then 2 Maxis, because this is the 2017 format, you require these to stay competitive, because you dump your hand right away, and your opponent's going to do the same, and they're going to special summon a bunch, and then you can kind of regain that a little bit. So Maxi, very essential for every deck. So that ends our monster lineup. Moving on to our spell lineup, which is basically makes up the remainder of the deck. We got 3 polymerizations. Very, very standard. You should be running 3. It's just a staple in this deck. You must. So Frightfur Fusion is basically polymerization, but instead of having access to your hand, it has access to the graveyard, but you have to choose a Frightfur monster. And that's where most of your monsters reside. There's not too much banishing going on. There's a little bit, but mostly you're just dumping to the graveyard. So you have that access to a ton of monsters. So Frightfur Fusion, we only run it at 2. I think it's smarter that way. 3 would, I think it just clogs up. That's too many fusion choices there. Frightfur Fusion's a little bit more situational, but it's such a key card. Frightfur Fusion is also searchable by Edge Imp Chain, so that's pretty awesome. So it is still pretty easy to get out. Another card searchable by Edgem Chain. So here is Frightfur Factory, and I absolutely love Frightfur Factory. It acts by like recycling your graveyard polymerization or fusion spell, so Frightfur Fusion counts, and allowing you to fusion summon using that card as if you just played it. And this is a continuous spell. And the final factor about this is if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one of your banished Frightfur Fusions and just add it back to your hand. So you can even use it again. The fusion potential for this deck is just off the charts. I love it so much, and I love the whole artwork too. It's just great. And of course we run 3 toy vendors, so basically you can discard a card, draw a card, and then reveal it. You have to. Then if it is a Fluffal monster, you can special summon it. Well, special summon one monster from your hand. Usually it's a Fluffal monster you choose to special summon. Otherwise, discard the card you drew, which is still pretty good because sometimes you draw a polymerization or another toy vendor off of that, and those do help you in your graveyard with the combos. And then also, if this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 Edgem Sabers or 1 Fluffal monster from your hand. So another search engine, which is why it's good to see this card end up in the graveyard. But we also run a field spell. I love field spells. Every chance that a deck works well with a field spell, I'd like to run it. Just because I love how they act and I love how they work. And I really wish it wasn't each person gets a field spell. I like the good old days when a field spell was played and the whole field is like that, and you can counter that with your field spell. I don't know. I'm just old-fashioned that way. So the power of Fusion Recycling Plant isn't necessarily that it allows you to discard a card and add a polymerization from your deck or graveyard to your hand. That is very nice, but it's that you can target one of your monsters in your graveyard that was used as fusion material, and for a fusion summon this turn, so you have to use it like sequential, but you can add it to your hand. You can add that fusion material back into your hand, and that is so key for polymerization. It's just, this is such a fusion deck, and I love it so much. I love fusions, and I love how they work, and this fusion deck just makes so much sense to me. I love it. And then we just run some tech cards. So the Foolish Burial Goods, I think that's what they finally settled on the name for. I haven't seen this card pop up too often, but I've been using it in this profile quite a bit. You can send 1 spell or trap card from your deck to the graveyard. So it's a Foolish Burial, but for spell and trap cards, which is perfect for this deck beyond belief, because you want Toy Vendor to end up in there, and maybe you don't draw a polymerization, but you do draw this, and you do have your Fusion Recycling Plan or something like that. You can ditch polymerization and get it back to your hand at the end. It's so amazing, the combos that this deck produces. And then we also got 1 Instant Fusion. We do keep 1 more in the side deck, but 1 Instant Fusion is all I feel I ever want to run. I'm usually just like, yeah, I don't really want to play an Instant Fusion this turn, so it's just kind of like a dead card I usually just discard with. So I kind of kept it at 1. I've seen somebody run at 3. That's more than I want to see. I think 1 or 2 is good. Obviously you have a few fusion monsters that are level 5 or below, so it does make sense, but I think only 1 is completely good for me, and I don't think I'm ever going to run more than 1. Very situational, that would run 2. And of course, Regeki, because power of destruction is real here. And then lastly, moving on to our trap lineup, we have just 3-dimensional barriers to counteract the meta. Zodiacs, those are a thing. Those are a thing you need to shut down. So definitely dimensional barriers. You should run 3. So that ends it off for our main deck. Now moving on to our extra deck. Of course, we use the 2 new Frightfur Krakens. Those are insane. So with 3000 defense, which is awesome, but once per turn, I'm just going to read it out for you. Once per turn, you can target 1 monster your opponent controls, send it to the graveyard. Just like that. So nice. I don't even think it's a destruction effect, if I'm understanding it correctly. So there's that, which is insane. This card cannot attack directly the turn this effect is activated, but you can still attack another one, another monster. So that's awesome. Like, sure, you don't get the potential direct attack, but most times you're not going to be able to. But this card can make a second attack during each battle phase. It's just beyond me. And if this card battled at the end of the battle phase, you can change it to defense mode to get its full 3000 defense potential. This is the boss monster of this deck, just because it's so versatile. But enough about that. We also got our powerhouse Frightfur Sabertooth Tiger. Basically, when this monster is fusion summoned, I can target 1 Frightfur monster in the graveyard and special summon it, so you get another Frightfur monster back. Now, All Frightfur monsters you control gain 400 attack, which is a nice little power boost. They're not insanely high attacking monsters, but if this card was fusion summoned using 3 or more fusion material monsters, it cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects. It's so good. I'm serious. This is so good. It's just great. I can't even begin to describe how nice it is just not have to be worried about getting it stomped over or just Raigeki. It's great. And we run 2 of those, but we only run 1 Frightfur Wolf, which is just a simple little card that allows for a couple multiple attacks. It's kind of like when you're running low on stuff, you kind of bring out Wolf. It's just good. You can attack as many times as it was used like for fusion materials, so it can basically just attack for every fusion material it was used for fusion summoning, so you get 2 attacks, so that's pretty sweet there. It is level 6, so it's not instant fusionable, but there's still that. Up next, we run 2 Frightfur Tigers. Now, when this card is fusion summoned, you can target as many cards as fusion material it was used to summon it, and destroy them. Instant, like, explosion on the field when you bring this guy out, because you're going to be able to take out 2 cards at least. Awesome. But then all Frightfur monsters you control gain 300 attack for each Fluffal and Frightfur monster you control. So you get this card out, and you get another card out, because that's where the power is going, and that's when it really starts to shine. Like, it only has 1900, but it's already going to have 2100, or 2200 when it comes out, so that's pretty good. And then 2500 if you have another card, and that card also gains 600. So there you go. Plus the potential for this deck to have special summoned Fluffal monsters. It's fairly easy to gain a little bit more attack just to stomp over something. So this is basically the ancient gears of this deck. If this card attacks or is attacked, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. That is just the best. But if this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, either by like battle or by your opponent's card effect, you can special summon it. And it gains 800 attack, so it comes back with 2800. So if they destroy it in battle, boom, you have a 2800 monster come back out. But you can only use this effect once per turn. And then we have 1 Elder Norden, good for rank 4 plays and special summons, thanks to instant fusion as well. And then moving on to our rank engines, we have number 38, Hope Harbinger, Dragon Titanic Galaxy. What a mouthful. It's just because we have so many level 8 monsters in this, sometimes you want to go into rank 8, maybe sometimes your fiend is chained down or you're stuck somewhere. It's just nice to bring out this card. So obviously just run one of these. Any level 8 monster of choice, this kind of seems to be the better one of the top picks of this format so far. And we got 1 Utopia for the rank 4 engine, who can bring out obviously Utopia the Lightning, which is obviously beyond good. So that's your only real rank 4 engine that you run, along with the Shark. I don't know how to pronounce your first name. I am terrible with pronunciations. I am very much an online player. But this is not really to keep it out. This is more so for you to get out your totally awesome. So many people run this. I don't go into it enough because I'm not familiar enough with it, but I wanted to put it in my deck. I saw that TeamSamuriaX1, Sam, he runs this a lot, and I really like it. So I wanted to put it in my deck as well. I thought it's a fun little gimmicky thing. It's quite powerful. I do like it a lot. But I don't really run into it much. I'm more of a stick to the archetype type of guy. But it's very fun. It still fits the deck. Obviously, you kind of have that little bit of extra space in your extra deck that you can fill up with like anything you want, because really those 10 Frightfurs, you're not really going to run out of Frightfurs. So that little bit of extra space, I just thought, yeah, let's fill it up with some helpful Xyz and let's throw in the totally awesome engine. And finally, moving on to our side deck, we have 3 of these artifacts. These are great. That just stops the banishing. Fairly standard side deck card there. I got with my other instant fusion. A dark hole. I only run 1. I tend not to use it as often. I stick fairly close to the main deck for this one. I don't really do much siding, but it's always nice to help out. And then obviously some spell and trap card destruction here. We can banish 1 by paying 1,000 life points, and this is a quick play, so that's really awesome. And then moving on, we got 2 Forbidden Chalices. Now, this is just great to stop monsters' effects. It's a quick play. It does give them 400 attack, but that usually isn't like enough to do anything. So it just stops an effect there. And then keeping our monsters alive, they might lose 800, but they're unaffected by the effects of spell and trap cards, which is kind of be situational, because you might want to hit your opponent with this, lose 800, and then they can't use their own like equip or their own target for their own spell cards on their own monsters. So this is pretty great. I remember these cards from a little while back. I stopped using them, but I see their potential. 2 Twin Twisters, fairly standard. Let's just destroy some back row. And then we got some Solemn cards. We got Solemn Strike and Solemn Warning to end off this deck profile. I really hope you guys enjoyed this deck profile. I absolutely love it. If I had to choose any other deck to make right now, it would be a Frightfur deck. I am just head over heels. I love it so much. It's so great. But I hope to see you in the next video. As always, peace.